Rise of the Tomb Raider is a sequel to 2013's Tomb Raider reboot. This game is much more complex than that game, but it also has a little bit of everything in it. In this video, I will go over my 2020 review of this game, and of course, this video will have spoilers, so if you want a spoiler-free review, you could watch my Is It Worth It in the top right-hand corner of your screen now. But other from that, let's just get straight into this. So yeah, part 1, we're going to talk about the story. So, this game takes place a year after the events of 2013's Tomb Raider, and while on the search for more answers, Lori turns to her father's late works on the lost city of Kitezh and the promise of immortality. This then leads her to go on another trip to northwestern Syria in hopes to undiscover the tomb of the Prophet of Constantinople, which it might be how you say it. It's a very interesting word, but basically he was a key figure in the lost city, and while here you go through the basics of the game and you find out that the tomb has already been raided by Trinity, and Trinity is the Order in this game that are basically the enemy of this game, but basically they're an order that investigates the supernatural, and they basically play the same role as the brothers in the previous game, but a little different. But in this tomb though, you meet the leader of Trinity, which is Constantine, that also plays a pretty big role in this game. But while here, Laura notices some symbols etched into the tomb which she thinks links to a book in Russian religious history. So after escaping Trinity, leaving the tomb, she goes off to read this book, to which she learns about the divine source which grants you immortality, and that Siberia is the place to start looking for it. Now, in Siberia, you start off by getting lost in the mountains, to which this plays almost the exact same role as the beginning of 2013's Tomb Raider, where it uses this small segment to show you the basics of mechanics and camps and how to craft and all of that. But after this, you actually start the story in its game itself. So, as you can imagine, Trinity is here looking for the same thing you are, and you eventually get captured by them and taken to the gulags. While there, you meet Jacob, so now you and Jacob both have to escape the gulags and make your way out of Trinity's reach and back to the main quest. So, after you escape them, you discover that Jacob is the leader of the people of this Siberian place, which are basically just this village in the middle of the valley, and they are descendants of the Prophet's followers. Then, once here, you're basically left off to explore by yourself and progress the story at your own pace, and something new to this game is side quests. Now, while none of them are really memorable, you do get some pretty valuable rewards for doing these side quests, so I would recommend doing them, but they really aren't adding to the story in any way. But yeah, story-wise, you're basically just going through this area, exploring more to get to your endpoint. And after all this, you just get to this little old worn out place, which is like a church of sorts. I'm still not exactly sure because I wasn't paying that much attention, but basically Trinity is occupying it, and you take Anna, who is the brother of Constantine and the previous partner of Laura's dad's hostage. And basically after all of this and all of the confrontation, you fall and make your way to this tomb of sorts, where you find the Atlas, which the Atlas is basically the map to the lost city if you put it up to a light. So it's pretty simple concept. Just you get it and you make your way back. So once you get back and with this object, you meet Jonah, who is from the previous game. As I said, he would play a pretty big role, but Jonah's here again, who was actually here in the beginning of the game. He just kind of like dipped when you got lost in the mountains. But yeah, Jonah's here, and now something I wasn't expecting at all is that Trinity ambushes you, and they take the Atlas and take Jonah, all of them. They take him to the gulag, they take the Atlas, and I was just not expecting it because it was all nice and quiet and like, oh, Jonah's back, yay, and then Trinity's like, alright, mine now. But yeah, so after the past 10 hours of which you've played, you're now at the last section of the story, so you gotta go save Jonah, to which Jonah gets a wound that, if not treated very soon, would kill him, and you take Jonah to Jacob, to which he heals him, and Jonah recovers in mere seconds. This is where Laura realizes that Jacob is the Prophet, which it's pretty obvious if you look at him and you just add the two up together, but I was not expecting it, and I was actually really surprised. So yeah, but after all this though, you now have to go to the lost city and get the divine source. So this is where the game gets really similar to the original 2013 reboot. Now, while in the lost city, you discover the people called the Deathless Ones, which they're basically the immortal guards. So sounding familiar? Yeah. But one last thing before we get into this is that if you actually read the journals that are throughout the game, you can find out that the divine source bestows immortality at the cost of oneself. So pretty fun fact, and that will play a role later. But after fighting your way through the city, you make it to the last part where you have to kill Constantine, but you have the option of his fate. Either you just kill him immediately, like I did, where I just took an arrow and just shot him in the face because I just didn't want to deal with it, or you brutally kill him, which is just brutal, I was not expecting it, or you just let him be engulfed in flames. And yeah, either way he dies. But After this, you get to the end where Anna is holding up the Divine Source, where Jacob also arrives. Here, Anna activates the Divine Source, to which she is overwhelmed by it, and this gives Laura her only chance to grab it and destroy it. And after destroying it, the Deathless Ones, who is the Immortal Guards again, they perish and they're bye-bye, and Jacob lost his immortality and he is starting to fade away. So basically, you destroy the Divine Source, and Jacob, who is the Prophet, is dying. So it's like, you know, like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, you can do this, but this will happen in return. So yeah, it's basically like that. But after all this, the fate of Anna takes place in after credit scenes, which basically she's giving secrets about Trinity and she's just assassinated, which, I mean, yeah, I don't know why, and I would imagine that leads up to the next game, but I'm not done with it. But yeah, that's it, that's the game. Everyone basically dies, and you're just left off by yourself. So yeah, other from that, let's actually get into the rest of this game now, starting off with gameplay. Okay, now that the really long part is over, let's actually get into the smaller parts. So, gameplay in this game is still as good as 2013's Tomb Raider. The fighting is still amazing, and the platforming is something that I still love doing. Now, while obviously improved on, I do think that it improves for the better and shows, but as I said before, the mechanics in this game are much more complex, and this can come from the several different types of arrows you can make to the amount of stuff you can loot and make. It's much more complex in how everything works. But one other thing is that camps are much more complex too. Now, before I get into this, I just want to mention that I do like how camps have the same UI as the previous Tomb Raider. It's a nice little touch, but yeah, camps are much more complex, and this also ranges from the stupid amount of camps there are. I think I came across like 20 something versus the original Tomb Raider, which had like 16 or something. But yeah, there's a lot more camps in this game, and this also comes with the amount of skills you get. So as you can imagine, the skills in this game are much more complex than the previous game. There's a lot more different stuff. There's a lot more weapons and ammo and all of that. It's just much more complex overall. But it's just something I like is that you can still digest all of this complexity in this game. It's not overwhelming, but if you're like me and you played the original Tomb Raider and are immediately coming to this, it might be a little bit overwhelming, but overall, it's just the right amount. But yeah, gameplay mechanics in this game, while much more complex than the previous one, they are still really good, and I still really like them. Graphics in this game are stunning, and I still find it crazy how much better graphics got in the matter of 2 years. But yeah, graphics in this game are something that hold up very well for 5 years later, and they're just overall really good. So I don't have much to complain about the graphics. They look amazing, especially for 2015. It's just the most important thing that I get from it is that 2013's Tomb Raider and 2015's it's just much better graphically. But yeah, very short part on graphics. And other from that, let's talk about visuals. And again, yes, these are two different things, but in this game, I do have to say it isn't as visually pleasing as 2013's Tomb Raider. And while yes, there are great visuals, it's just not as good as when I was going through the past Tomb Raider. And while I wish they did do a little more visuals in this game, I do have to admit the ones in this game were really good. So yeah, short little two-part about graphics and visual right there. I wish it was a little longer that I could get into, but they're just better, and yeah, that's basically it. But other from that, let's talk about the lore. So like the last game, there's a lot of objects and journals you can find throughout the entire game that tells the lore of the story and just everything, just, you know, the history of the place and some mini stories. I mean, one of them that I really like is that there's this mini story in those journals about a couple in the gulag that I really enjoyed. But again, I do wish that they implemented them more into the story itself, since like I said last video, I wish they did it better. I mean, I like how it is, how it works and all that, but I feel like they could have made it more integrated with the story itself. But yeah, the lore in this game is nice, especially because it's Russian, and who doesn't like that? It tells a lot of stories, especially from the gulag. So I feel like they could have done a little more with it, and I feel like it's a little less as in-depth as the original Tomb Raider. But I do like the lore in this game and do it very well. But short part on that too, but let's get into the negatives. So the amount of stuff in this game that I don't actually like surprised me a lot, because there's quite a lot in this game, and I was not expecting it coming from 2013's Tomb Raider. Now, keeping it short, game-wise, it's mostly just lazy things. For example, let's say every tomb that you raid, it has the exact same outcome. You can get to this pedestal that has the exact same text in every single one of them. And yes, I did take a bunch of screenshots just to make sure I was right, and I'll throw them up on screen. But I feel like they could have been a lot better with that and just made it unique for each different tomb that you're raiding, not just the same thing. Because, I mean, if you look at the text from the pedestal, some of it doesn't have to relate to where you are in the tomb, so I feel like they could have done that. But something else I want to put to your attention is the microtransactions. And yes, there are microtransactions in this game, but thankfully they are cosmetic only. So while I guess you could kind of explain this with the fact that the previous game didn't sell extremely well. I mean, don't get me wrong, it did do extremely well, just it didn't do enough. So like, it did extremely well, but it wasn't what they wanted, so they put microtransactions in this game. But I still don't like it, as you know, it's probably, I would imagine back when this game came out, it was probably annoying, but again, I can't really hate that much because I did get every cosmetic and DLC for $8 and the entire game. So yeah, microtransactions in this game are annoying, but they don't affect gameplay in any way, so I can let that slide. But as you'll soon later see in upcoming videos, that will not stay the truth. But other from that, it's mostly just laziness in the actual game, from, again, the tombs having the exact same outcome, or just like lazy small attention to details, which I don't care that much, but it would have been nice to see because they did that in at least the 2013 Tomb Raider. But yeah, so not a lot of negatives, but there still is some negatives that I don't like. But yeah, now wrapping this video up, let's get into the verdict. Overall, for this game being 5 years old and obviously not as much quality as the previous one, I do have to admit that this still is a great game, and throughout the entire game I did love every moment of it and still found the story really fun to get into and just indulge in. And while I might not like some aspects of the game and how it does have some performance issues, so for example, I have a mid-end PC, you would say, and I was getting like 60 some frames on high, so while that is still really good, I do have to admit that sometimes the frames will eat ass. So yeah, but other from that, I do also have to admit that the price for this game was fantastic. Again, I got it for $8, including every DLC and every cosmetic, so it's really cheap, and we're in quarantine. Again, you know you have nothing better to do. But in the end, I would give this game a 9.1 out of 10, which is an extremely well score, and the only thing holding it back is the lack of quality compared to 2013's Tomb Raider and some of the main quests in the storyline, how it's just not as great as I think it could have been. But yeah, as you can imagine, I bought the next game, which is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and you will be seeing videos on that, but it'll probably come in a later time, maybe like next month or something. But yeah, overall, this game is great. I really recommend you get it if you have not. So yeah, that's been about it. Till next time, see ya.